The meadow of mornings breathed with the rhythm of the wind. Grass blades swayed in unison, parting to reveal the path ahead. Emma walked through the center of the field, her stride steady and light against the soft earth. Beside her, whimsy drifted through the air, leaving a trail of golden sparks that hung suspended like dust motes in the morning light. The air smelled of damp clover and sun-warmed soil. It was a morning defined by perfect, unbroken stillness. Then, the silence snapped. A wet, rhythmic sniffle cut through the air, vibrating from somewhere just beyond a cluster of giant sunflowers. Emma stopped instantly. She tilted her head, listening. The sound came again, jagged and thick with effort. Whimsy dimmed his glow, hovering close to her shoulder. Emma stepped off the path, her boots pressing silently into the moss. She moved toward the massive, broadleaf stalks, reaching out to push aside the heavy, overlapping petals. She took one final step, lowered her gaze, and prepared to see what had broken the peace. Emma pushed the velvet petals aside. Behind the stalks, a small figure sat hunched against the damp earth. It was Pip. He did not look up when she arrived. He was surrounded by a chaotic pile of shredded paper and splintered sticks. His ears were pressed flat against his shoulders, drooping with a heavy, visible weight. He clutched a tangle of string in his trembling hands. Emma stepped closer, her eyes scanning the debris. Pip finally looked up, his gaze darting toward the sky where other kites soared. They were sleek, sharp-edged, and moved with effortless grace. He pointed a shaking finger at the jagged, torn remains of his own kite. "My kite tore," he whispered, the words barely audible. "Everyone is flying theirs, but mine is ruined." He let the broken frame fall back into the dirt, his shoulders slumping further. The contrast was absolute. Emma did not speak. She knelt in the grass, pressing her weight into the soil, and reached out to touch the jagged edge of the paper. Emma ignored the dirt staining her knees and reached for the red kite. "We do not need magic to fix this," she said, her voice cutting through the stillness. Whimsy hovered directly over her hands, pulsing his light with a steady, rhythmic beat. As the golden glow intensified, the sap softened, turning into a pliable, sticky paste. Emma aligned the jagged edges of the paper, pressing the leaf patches firmly over the tears. Pip held the frame steady, his knuckles white as he focused on the alignment. They worked in a rhythm of shared concentration. Emma layered the leaves, smoothing the edges until the surface held together under the pressure of her thumbs. Whimsy shifted his position, angling his light to harden the sap into a permanent seal. The kite began to transform, its surface becoming a mosaic of meadow textures and colors. Every patch was deliberate, every seam reinforced. When they finally stood up, the kite looked lopsided and strange compared to the sleek, factory-made shapes drifting in the sky above. It was heavy, textured, and entirely unique. Pip gripped the frame, testing the weight. It held. The structure was solid, the repairs invisible under the layer of hardened sap. They looked at the horizon, waiting for the wind to shift. Pip did not wait. He gripped the string and sprinted toward the crest of the hill, his boots kicking up sprays of grass. He reached the peak just as a sharp gust of wind swept across the meadow. He threw the kite upward. It moved with the smooth, predictable grace of the others. It danced, dipping and weaving in the updrafts. It soared higher, a vibrant mosaic of leaves and paper. Below, the other creatures stopped their play. They gathered in a tight circle, their heads tilted back, eyes wide as they tracked the kite's erratic soaring path. One creature pointed, his finger trembling with surprise. "How did it fly so high?" he asked. Another stepped forward, squinting against the sun. "It looks different from all the rest," he added. Pip turned back toward the slope, his face flushed and bright with sudden, sharp joy. He looked directly at Emma, then pointed, shouting for the others to see. Emma stood back, her hands tucked into her pockets, watching the kite hold its own against the wind. She did not seek the attention, only the sight of Pip running freely. The sun began to dip, casting long, amber shadows across the meadow. Whimsy landed on Emma's shoulder, his light pulsing with a soft, rhythmic glow. "Kindness is not a spell," he whispered. "It is the act itself." Pip ran back, his breathing heavy but steady, and stopped in front of her. He reached out and pressed a small, smooth seed into the center of Emma's palm. "This is a kindness seed," he said. "Plant it and see what happens." Emma closed her fingers around the seed, feeling its cool, solid weight against her skin. She looked up at the kite, still dancing as a distant speck against the darkening sky, then turned toward the path leading home. She did not need to press the seed into the dirt to understand its purpose. The act of helping had already taken root within her. She tucked the seed into her pocket, turned, and began the walk back, the meadow settling into the quiet of the coming night. Join Emma Club, Stories with Emma Family.